A closer look at prevention education, an avian veterinarian with some interesting facts about birds, and an amazing story about common household glue. All that and more is coming right up, and I hope you'll stay tuned.
Providing entertainment for over 25 years, WALA-TV presents a tradition in Mobile, the Dot Moore Show. Once again, Dot Moore.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. We're happy you're there. And today we'll hear from Dr. Linda Knight, who is an avian veterinarian. She's brought along a little feathered friend with her. And we'll also acquaint you with the facts about Penelope House's prevention education program and how you can participate if you'd like to, and more. But right now, our feature fashion on location. Today we're in the aircraft pavilion in the Battleship Park. And you can find any plane you want to identify here that has a great history behind it, like the Sabre, or the Corsair, or even the Lockheed Blackbird, a very slim, exotic plane. If you want to learn about the Korean War, it's all written for you on an ornate bulletin board right here in the pavilion. And Jeep is on display, an Army helicopter, rescue planes, and for the tourist's delight, a simulator, if you care to get in the simulator and find out what that's all about. It's all right here in the pavilion at Battleship Park. And today's feature fashion is designed by Howard Wolf in a linen fabric, buttoned down the front with ornate square metal buttons, the only trim on the dress, with pockets and a neckline that you can dress up if you care to, with turned-back cuffs on the sleeves. The color is olive, a very good color for spring and summer wear. A linen-like fabric by Howard Wolf. And our feature fashion is courtesy of Holiday on Old Shell Road in Spring Hill. Well, here's a story from the archives of Now I've Heard Everything. Some penguin experts at a well-known zoo in this country actually saved a life with common household glue. In this report, we get the details of just how that happened.
It was a sticky problem with an even stickier solution. An egg bearing an unborn Gentoo penguin chick was discovered with part of its shell pushed in. SeaWorld San Antonio bird specialist Cindy Lauser examined the egg and discovered the chick was still alive, but would die if the cracked shell allowed the membrane to dry out or tear.
It's extremely difficult to save a chick when the shell and inner membrane have been broken prematurely.
A new outer coating was needed to protect the delicate membrane until the chick could mature. Lauser decided to repair the egg with something she's used since she was a child.
Grabbed a bottle of Elmer's glue and coated the side that was broken on the shell.
The egg was placed in an incubator for the next 2 weeks.
Once he started pipping through the shell, we had to help break the egg open.
Today, the healthy Gentoo penguin fascinates people here at SeaWorld with his antics. His name? You guessed it, Elmer. From San Antonio, Texas, this is Jim Carnell.
There's a brand new building material that's extremely water resistant, moisture resistant, and consumers have just been introduced to it. In this report, we learn why it's so popular with homeowners.
Interest is building in new materials that can be used to construct low-maintenance decks. A favorite among homeowners is an engineered composite made from plastic polymers and recycled wood designed specifically for deck planking. Because the material is extremely moisture-resistant, it won't rot, warp, splinter, or decay like wood. The result is a virtually maintenance-free deck that can easily be painted or stained or allowed to weather naturally to an attractive driftwood gray or a light brown in hot, dry climates. In addition, the planks fit together with a tongue-and-groove design that dramatically reduces installation time while it also eliminates almost all exposed fasteners. Homeowners who have chosen the material known as TimberTech say it gives them all the beauty of a wood deck with none of the headaches. For more information, visit the TimberTech website at www.timbertech.com or call 1-800-307-7780.
Welcome back. Well, that old cliche, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, might really describe why my first two guests are in appearance here from Penelope House, a shelter for domestic violence. We're going to talk about their new educational program, but would you please welcome their board president, who is Carol File on my immediate right, and next to her is Claire Geary, who is volunteer chairman. We're going to talk about your program, but first of all, Carol, has violence in the domestic field really escalated, or has it minimized in the last few years?
No, we feel that violence has escalated somewhat, and also our awareness of violence has escalated. People are talking about it, people are reporting it, so the reportability and the escalation is contributing to more violence.
Now, how long has Penelope House been in existence?
20 years. We just celebrated our 20th anniversary.
And you've seen lots of progress, I'm sure.
Oh, very much so. We have served 18,000 women in the past 20 years, and on an average we have about 4,000 crisis calls every single year.
Oh, for goodness
Those
sake.
are the women who could call, just like the women who didn't have the nerve to call.
And now you have a new program where you're going to do an educational, prevention educational program in the Mobile County schools. Tell me about that, and then we'll talk with the chairman over there who has to do with the volunteers.
Well, I have personally been involved in the prevention education for 9th graders. I have been a volunteer and I've gone to the schools and try to build their awareness of what is a abusive relationship and make them aware of the fact that that is not the proper way to act. And the stats are that 1 out of 8 high school students will be in an abusive relationship.
1 out of 8?
And 1 out of 5 when they go to college. So it doesn't decrease with age, it increases. So if we can catch them in 9th grade before they're really involved in a lot of abuse, perhaps we can slow it down and eventually stop it.
Well, you'd be complimented. That's a wonderful effort, because an ounce of prevention really is worth a pound of cure. Well, let's talk with Claire over here about volunteers, because if you have volunteers, wouldn't they have to be heavily trained for this? And how does that happen?
Well, first of all, they need to have the desire to go into the schools and present the programs to the students. If they have that desire, then all they need to do is contact Penelope House, and they can get in touch with me there at Penelope House, and they will be given the training that they need so that they will feel comfortable going into the schools. We have programs from kindergarten through high school. In the lower grades, we generally present programs that teach personal safety, such as what to do when mom and dad fight, how to stay safe. If they are a victim of abuse, they are encouraged to tell someone, a responsible adult, so that they can get the help that they need. When we go into middle schools, we get into dating relationships and warning signs to look for so that they can make a good choice and avoid abusive relationships.
Well, you surely need a lot of volunteers, do you not?
Yes, we do need, because the Mobile County schools are large. I mean, when you start talking about elementary on up to the high schools, we do need a great number. We've asked for 20 volunteers, and we're hoping that we can get that, but we could certainly use more. If more people call, they certainly will be trained and be placed out into the school systems.
Okay, we have a telephone number there, and if people can take it down. If not, I have it at my desk, and I'll be happy to give it to you if you want to give me a call, if you don't have a pencil handy. Isn't it true that children emulate what they see and hear when it comes to violence, and are not even conscious sometimes of what's really going on?
Right. Like it or not, our parents are our role models. And if our parents are violent, we learn it. And we think that's proper behavior when we start dating. And they learn it from their parents. It just goes, the cycle goes on. And if we can stop it with these young students, we'll be so much farther ahead of the game.
Well, is this the first of this type of program that you've gotten underway? I mean, have you done this before?
I've been volunteering for the schools in Mobile County for about 7 years.
I was appalled at how many schools are in the Mobile County area that you've sent figures on, for heaven's sake.
There are 58 elementary schools, 21 middle schools, and 18 high schools.
Yeah.
And we need to have a volunteer in each one of those schools to talk to students about dating abuse, violence at home, etc.
What are some of the reasons that people give for staying with a violent situation, that women give when they live with some man that beats them up?
The one you hear over and over again is, "But I love him."
Oh. Well, now, can people come to Penelope House more than once?
Oh, yes.
They can come when it's necessary.
Yes. We hope to educate them and teach them how to take care of themselves and keep themselves safe so they don't have to do this over and over again.
Well, it's a very interesting program, and I hope that you'll get some calls from this show for volunteer, because a lot of people are looking for very worthy calls just to spend some time with. Okay?
Okay,
So keep
thank
up
you.
the good work. Thank you very much, Clara
Thank you for having
and
us.
Carol.
Thank you.
And we'll be back after this. And we're back on the patio set here, and we're talking with Dr. Linda Knight, who is an avian veterinarian. And I'm very excited to know about your existence. I did not know. I just assumed people took birds who were ailing in some way to a regular vet. But you have special training and specialization. We're going to get into that in a moment. But let me ask you something. Aren't birds a lot more difficult to treat than other animals?
Oh, yes, Don. They're so much more difficult. First of all, they're harder to handle. A dog or a cat you carry on the leash. A bird you have to hold. You have to be able to handle it gently, yet protect yourself. Because some of these birds have beaks that just can snap a nut in two, and that can be your finger. It'll just break it and cut pretty deep.
Yeah.
So you have to be careful with them. And also they have a whole set of different diseases and a whole different anatomy than the rest of the mammals we deal with. So you have to be trained in their conditions and how to handle them.
Well, that beak is always a hazard. I know I had it happen to me on this television set with the caged bird people. They had a macaw walking around, and I wasn't aware he was loose. And I backed into him, and he bit me on the big toe. I had on a pair of sandals, and it hurt.
It does hurt.
Yeah, okay. I've always heard that birds hide any type of ailment and don't let you know if possible. Why is that?
Well, out in the wild, if they're sick, they're going to be prey for another predator. So they have to hide their illness to keep themselves safe out in the wild. So when we have birds as our pets, they'll be in their cage, and they'll hide their illness so that it'll keep them safer.
Well,
but
for heaven's
unfortunately,
sake.
it puts them at risk, because then they're really sick by the time you realize that they've been hiding it.
Okay, now you've brought along a sketch, and we're going to put that up right now and have you tell us a little bit about what we're dealing with. That's a skeletal sketch of a bird. Of what kind? Just a
It's just
parrot?
a parrot.
All right. What areas now do diseases attack? Any area more than anything else? Any other one?
Well, really not. They can have respiratory problems. They get sinus infections. They do have sinuses.
You're
So they get
kidding.
sinus infections. They get bacterial infections. They get fungal infections. They get all sorts of infections. So we do deal with the respiratory tract. Birds also are a little different in that they have a crop, and that crop is a holding place for food to go down into their stomach. And so they can get crop diseases, and we'll see in the baby birds, like the little baby I brought today, some of them will get too hot a formula, and it'll burn that crop, and the formula will actually burn it to where when you put the formula in, it comes out the neck. And then we have to go in and fix that surgically. So they can have burns and traumas to their crop. Sometimes they'll eat things. If that bird, the macaw, was walking around, they're bad about getting into things and picking things up and playing with it.
They're nosy.
They're very nosy, and they'll eat it, and it'll get stuck in their crop, and then we have to get it out. It's a foreign body. So they're sneaky little creatures sometimes. Now, we also have their lungs, and the respiratory tract's different. Where our lungs expand with each breath, their lungs have very little expansion. They have air sacs. They have 4 pairs of air sacs and then one unpaired air sac. And the air moves through, and it's the movement with the chest pulling the air through with their chest muscles and their abdominal muscles that pulls the air through and pushes it back out. And during that time, the lungs have their air exchange, but their lungs are not very movable. So they have a different type of exchange system. That's why we never hold birds around the chest or the abdomen, because they can't pull the air through, and you can suffocate them without even meaning to.
Well, if I had a bird that was a pet, and I did have parakeets at one time, but I wasn't conscious of all this. I don't think the technology was up that maybe
No,
15 or 20 years ago. What kind of symptoms would I look for if to discover that my pet was sick?
Well, the birds show, there's only a limited number of illnesses they show. They'll show sitting fluffed. They'll fluff their wings out, their feathers out, and sit fluffed. They sit real low. They'll tuck their head back and their eyes will squint, and they'll just be sitting very low on their perch. Their stool changes, and that's so important to know what's normal so that pet owners can find out what's abnormal when their bird doesn't act right. They'll also have a change of vocalization. Some of them who talk a lot, their voice will change, or their noises they make will change with colds and respiratory problems. So you really have to know what's normal for your bird, and believe it or not, the stool is key to a bird's health. We can tell by the stool sometimes what their liver's doing, what their kidney's doing, what kind of problems are going on. So normal behavior, is their bird eating properly? And if they eat, there's going to be stool passing, and they'll play with their seeds. They like to play with things. So you have to make sure that they're actually breaking the seeds open and consuming the seed inside. So,
well, you know, I have a friend that has a cockatoo that they fool with a lot, and they get very spoiled. I can see that, and they answer you more or less when you tuk at them, you know. Now, the bird that you brought in the cage, in the little cage here, is parakeet.
It's a lovebird.
A lovebird?
It's a Latina lovebird.
Yeah. He's yellow and has a little bit of red. Is he on? Yeah, he's on camera. And now I think he's sleeping.
Now he's sleeping. It's about lunchtime for him. It's time for him to eat. He is eating on his own, but he also gets hand-fed 3 times a day.
Do they sleep a lot? I mean, as opposed to maybe, well, cats sleep a lot, and dogs too.
They are very, have good photo periods. They like to be awake through the day and sleep at night. So when the lights go off, these guys want to go to bed. So they do have to have proper amounts of sleep. They like good night, full sleeps, and then they'll nap through the day. But they really like to be kept occupied throughout the day and stay awake most of the time.
Are there any special vaccines for birds?
Yes, there is. There's a disease called polyoma that mainly affects young birds but can affect older birds with sudden death. And there's a vaccine that's safe. It's been on the market about 4 years, and it's a series of 2 shots initially, and then it's an annual vaccine. There are very little risks. I've never had a reaction with that vaccine, and yet it's good for protection. And there's the only form of prevention we have for that disease because there's no way to treat it. So it's one of those things, if we can just vaccinate all the birds, we have a good chance of controlling this disease and not seeing it as often as we do.
Well, in your opinion, what kind of bird is the best talker?
The best talkers in general are going to be the African grays and the Amazons.
Parrots?
The parrots. And they are going to be very good talkers. Now, there are some smaller birds in there that will talk. The parrotlets are very good, and they're very small little parrots that are only about this big, and they're very good talkers. But generally, the African grays and the Amazons, if you say something, you better plan to hear it again because they're going to repeat it. Well, at usually a time you don't want.
They are amazing creatures, and we appreciate your coming on and acquainting us with avian veterinarianism. And whenever you're, by the way, you treat reptiles.
I treat the reptiles.
And so we'll ask you to come back and talk about that sometime and bring one with you.
I'd love to.
Okay. That's Dr. Linda Knight, and we'll be back after this.
Try this one here. Get the hell out of here. No R's.
Get the hell out of here.
Not he. He.
He.
Here.
He.
Well, the new Warner Brothers movie, Mickey Blue Eyes, is a romantic comedy. It stars James Caan and Hugh Grant, and it's about an English auction house owner and all the problems he finds when he first falls deeply in love. And here's a peek preview of Mickey Blue Eyes.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're now accepting bids for lot number 84.
Oil on canvas, dated 1870. La femme chez aube, which translates as a woman with massive bottom.
Michael Felgate was an Englishman in New York.
Just run normally.
I am running normally.
I guess I haven't seen you run before, and I thought you were doing a funny run.
Funny run? That's my run.
He met a woman he loved and bought a ring to prove it.
2 carat, how much money, what you pay?
But Michael's pursuit of happiness is about to take a detour.
I can't marry you because of my father.
Dad.
I don't want to marry your father.
You will, Michael. Him and his friends.
So you meet everyone? Bernie, Carmine, and this is Uncle Vito.
Rent, Goodfellas, Casino, Godfather, 1, 2, 3.
It's a little favor, a tiny lie, and you're theirs.
Mr. Graziosi has sent over one of his son's paintings for me to auction.
This unusual painting is entitled Die, Piggy, Piggy, Die, Die.
There are some men here from the FBI.
Good.
Have you at any time come into contact with anyone who you thought might be connected to organized crime?
Absolutely not.
Yesterday, Michael Felgate was an English gentleman. Today...
So, who's your friend? This is, Mickey Blue Eyes.
Mickey Blue Eyes.
Mickey Blue.
It's me, Miggy.
What?
Hugh Grant.
Try this. Forget about it.
Hey, forget about it.
James Caan.
Get the hell out of here. Remember, no Oz.
Get the hell out of here.
Here.
And Jean Triplehorn.
You're one of the guys now.
In a romantic comedy you can't refuse.
I am not going to let anyone come between us. Not Peter the Butcher or Vinny the Baker or anyone involved in any kind of food preparation.
Mickey Blue Eyes.
What the he? We got it under control. Forget about it.
Why in the world are you talking like that?
Shut up. I had enough of yous.
And that wraps it up for us this week. Thank you very much for joining us. We thank all of our guests. Until we see you again next week, I hope you stay happy.